Okay. Agari Prabhu?
Adivo.
Yes, can you make him the host so he can share the verse with us?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you for being with us. This is our honor to have an illustrious devotee, so qualified, both spiritually and materially. So maybe I actually share your biography with the devotees that are gonna join in and listen, but I don't know, and they don't know how you came to Krishna consciousness. You want to give us a little abbreviated version of how you came to the movement?
Should I tell, Sarvatma
Yes.
Prabhu?
Yes, please, because I don't know the story, so I can't tell.
Good morning, dear devotees. It's my great honor to be with you today. It was really my dream to attend Gita Nagari community. I didn't have still possibility to do it offline, but now by the kind invitation of Sarvatma Prabhu, I am able to visit your, which is a personification of Srila Prabhupada's idea how the devotees should live. It's great honor for me. I have nothing to say special about myself. I joined Hare Krishna movement only in 2009, and generally I worked in some scientific institutions. I completed 2 PhDs on physics and mathematics, and some I don't know, I did not show much much attraction for spirituality, but nevertheless some questions about the nature of myself, about the nature of the outer world, turned my face to some spiritual traditions. And fortunately, I was so fortunate to meet the ISKCON devotees 13 years ago, who gave me the literature, who gave me their association, and I was much attracted since that to the message of Srila Prabhupada, to the message of Lord Chaitanya. And here I found answers to all the questions I was looking the answers for of Hare Krishna. Again,
Okay.
it's my great honor to be with you this morning and to have your association. Thank you, Sarvatma Prabhu, again for the kind invitation.
Thank you for accepting. Prabhu, go ahead. It's just you can start the verse. You just say the verse once in the Roman transliteration and the synonyms and the verse and the purport, and go ahead and speak.
Okay.
So the form is yours.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tam yagya pashavo nena samyapta ye dayaluna kutharesh chichidu kruda smarantomivam asyatat. Synonyms: tam, him, yagya pashavaha, the sacrificial animals, anena, by him, samgyaptaha, killed, ye, all of them who, adayaluna, by the most unkind, kutaraihi, by excess, chichidu, who, pierced to pieces, krudaha, being very angry, smarantaha, remembering, amivam, sinful activity, asya, of him, that. Very close word, that, that in English especially it is seen the similarity, the origination from Sanskrit of languages. Translation: that most unkind king, Puranjana, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as though he were being cut to pieces by axes. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Those who are very enthusiastic about killing animals in the name of religion or for food must await similar punishment after death. The word mamsa, meat, indicates that those animals whom we kill will be given an opportunity to kill us. Although in actuality no living entity is killed, the pains of being pierced by the horns of animals will be experienced after death. Not knowing this, rascals unhesitatingly go on killing poor animals. So-called human civilization has opened many slaughterhouses for animals in the name of religion or food. Those who are little religious kill animals in temples, mosques, or synagogues, and those who are more fallen maintain various slaughterhouses. Just in civilized human society, the law is a life for a life. The law is life for a life. No living entity can encroach upon another living entity as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned. Everyone should be given freedom to live at the cost of the Supreme Father, and animal killing, either for the religion or for food, is always condemned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Lord Krishna says, Tam aham dvishata kruran samsareshu naradaman kshipamas ajasram ashubhan asurish eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life. The animal killers, Dvishataha, envying other living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are placed in darkness and cannot understand the theme and objective of life. This is further explained in the following verses. I read once again translation. That most unkind king, Puranjana, had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was as though he were being cut to pieces by axes. Om Gyana Timirandasya, Gyana Jana Shalakaya, Chakshu Unmilitamana, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Shrimate Bhaktivedanta, Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtitya Desha Taine. I feel very humbled to have to say something in front of you. So, respectful audience. Nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to speak about our spiritual realizations on the topics that we hear from our spiritual authorities or which we read in Srila Prabhupada's books. So, the story of Puranjana very logically fits into the structure of the fourth canto. As Jiva Goswami said.
Can you, Prabhu, stop sharing the screen so
okay, yes,
we can see you?
Yes. Okay. So the story of Puranjana Puranjana, by the way, I looked this morning into the dictionaries, Sanskrit dictionaries. The translation is the soul. The soul, Puranjana is the story of the soul. It comes, it fits very well into the structure, complete whole structure of the fourth canto, as is said in Padma Purana. The third and fourth cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are like the legs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, because they are like foundational pillars, which the third canto rejects the atheistic philosophy of Sankhya. Atheistic Sankhya is rejected in the third canto, and philosophy of Karma Kanda, Karma Mimamsa, is rejected in the fourth canto, in such stories, for example, like Daksha's sacrifice and the story of Puranjana. Also, of course, the story of Maharaja Pritku shows us how the sacrifices should be performed. And the story of Puranjana is, it also is quite logically comes into the structure of the fourth canto, because we're reading about the descendants of Dhruva Maharaja. And Narada Muni, a famous person of Srimad Bhagavatam, he was very attached to one of his favorite disciples, Dhruva Maharaja. And also this kindness of Narada Muni to Dhruva is reflected into this desire to help to King Prachinabarhishat. Narada Muni gives his instructions to King Prachinabarhi, and he tells this wonderful story of Puranjana. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his essay Bhakti Loka, says that people who are very much attached to the common novels, fiction, histories, they should read, in fact, the story of Puranjana. Some devotees say that this story is too long. Maybe it's, some say it's that something is repeated many times, but in fact, this is a very scientific story of Puranjana, the main idea of which is that the soul is different from the body. The body is just a field of activities for the eternal soul. And this knowledge is very precious for us when some external circumstances come into our life. There are some circumstances under the influence of which we very well understand that we are not this body. We are not these bodies, and in such difficult moments of life, such knowledge which gives us Srila Prabhupada, scientific knowledge, is very useful. It's not just jnana, dry jnana. It must be transformed into vijnana. That is why these texts spoken by Narada Muni about Puranjana are very useful for us. They have great practical importance. Around us, many people die every day, and we have knowledge. We have to have knowledge to understand what happens, to understand how can we help them, how can we help us to properly live our life and properly, so it will come to proper conclusion. In this text which we read today, we see what happened with King Puranjana just after his death. Many animals which were killed by him in various sacrifices, these animals, they came to him, he saw all of them, and they were ready to kill him when he was situated in his subtle body. Yes, this is also one of the important informations of the story of Puranjana, that we have both gross body and subtle body. When the gross body is finished, the soul travels within the subtle body into another destination. Another gross body is built up around the subtle body, around our conceptions, our desires, our thoughts, which we cultivated during our life. So wonderful is the philosophy that is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. The modern science provides many different theories of about the nature of consciousness. Mostly, the existing theories tell that consciousness is generated from matter when matter is developed onto some complicated state. So, like epiphenomenon, so-called epiphenomenon, consciousness is generated from matter at a certain stage of development of this matter. But no theory can us describe, no current scientific theory can us describe of how we just perceive colors, color red or color blue. What to say about the nature of our feelings, emotions, thoughts? Nothing can, freedom of will, after all. Nothing is said about it, just some hypotheses which are mostly like speculations which cannot be confirmed experimentally. But here we receive this knowledge about the soul, Puranjana, which lives for some time in one kshetra, in one body, and then with the subtle body travels to another destination. So these animals were ready to kill Puranjana, to pierce him with their horns. Like in Sanskrit, it was said, chichiduhu. Chid means to pierce, yes. And they wanted to kill him, like the same vision had Mrigari the hunter. Mrigari the hunter, also by the mercy of Narada Muni, saw he did not leave his body at that moment, but Narada Muni, by his mystic power, showed to Mrigari the animals which were ready to kill him. So this, we must take care. We must take care of what we do in this life, so we will not suffer. We will not lose time, lose precious time for having reincarnated in other bodies. Srila Prabhupada in his purport says about it, so that we must take notice of this information about what we should do in this life and what we should not do. Srila Prabhupada, as he does in many other places, he criticizes the meat eating. He explains this word mamsa, which means mam means me in accusative case, and saha means he. So he will kill me, in other words. If we kill somebody, or if we eat somebody's flesh, we will have to suffer in the next life. The same living being will have to kill us. This is the law of karma. It can be said cruel law of karma, but at the same time, it's just justice. Yes, karma is not cruel. Yes, we are cruel that we are creating these circumstances, that we come into this circumference of births and deaths. But Krishna, as Paramatma, is just performing justice. Yes, we receive from this world what we give to this world. So, and in fact, Srila Prabhupada said that this is just a position of civilized man to avoid meat eating, to avoid killing animals, to be a co-killer of animals, in other words. This is just a position of a human civilization from which we can begin our spiritual journey. In fact, I remember how I became vegetarian. It was slightly before I joined Hare Krishna movement. I was shocked by a small story by a writer, I'm not sure how his name is spoken in English. Chekhov, probably Sarvatma Prabhu knows him. Yes, Anton Chekhov. About two friends, a dog and a small horse, who were killed at the slaughterhouse. I was shocked about this reality of this animal slaughter. Although I have, of course, participated somehow in it during all my previous life, I was shocked. I gave up eating meat immediately, and my family, my wife, also followed it, because it's terrible thing. We just, when people eat meat, they do not understand what precedes to the event of buying this meat in supermarkets or somewhere else. So, and Srila Prabhupada says this is just a position of civilized person. Sometimes many advanced scholars, priests came to Srila Prabhupada for darshan, for talk, and Srila Prabhupada at once asked them, why are you eating meat? Why do you reject the instruction of Lord Jesus Christ? Why? And some of these people, they became disappointed. They said, oh, we came to know some confidential spiritual matters. We came to know some advanced spiritual philosophy, but you are just asking us to leave, to stop eating meat. But Srila Prabhupada demonstrated by this to his disciples and to us that human civilization begins at the point of following simple regulative principles, which he called regulative principles of freedom. Because if we do not follow such simple laws of God, it wouldn't be possible for us to understand some spiritual matters, to understand that we are really different from matter, to have positive, as Srila Prabhupada says, positive information about a linking process of uniting the soul with the God. No, it cannot be explained to a person who is dedicated to some sinful activities. So Srila Prabhupada again and again stresses in his purpose the necessity of following such simple laws. Also, another point which Srila Prabhupada makes in his commentary, he said that Krishna casts these persons who disobey to follow his laws into the lower species of life. And somebody may say that, oh, Krishna is so cruel. But no, Krishna is the personification of mercy. Wherever this world was desired by us, in fact, not by Maya, as Srila Prabhupada said to Shichananda Swami, to his question, why Krishna created Maya. Srila Prabhupada said, no, it is you, meaning all of us, who created this world. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I believe in the 12th chapter, Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna does not want that the living entity will fall into the lowest pieces of life. But if a living entity, I'm trying to find the word, is very decisive, is very determinant, yes, have a determination to go to the lowest pieces of life, the Lord allows it. The Lord just gives sanction. Yes, you can do it. Although the Lord, as a super soul, he doesn't want to allow such activities. But if the living entity persists in his or her desire to go to hell, then the Lord just has to make a sanction to it. There is always a freedom of will. As living souls, we have a small freedom of will. We have a choice. That is why we have to make a proper choice to follow the laws of God, which are propagated to us by the saintly persons, or to ignore them. I was fascinated by the book written by Jayadvaita Swami. It is called Vanity Karma. One of the ideas which I was fascinated in this book is that what is our freedom of will? Maharaja says that the only our freedom of will is expressed in how do we react to the words of saintly persons who ask us to come to the spiritual life, who ask us to start traversing the spiritual path. This is our only freedom of will. Other events in our life are more or less predetermined. But our real freedom is how will we react to the instructions which are given kindly, mercifully to us by such sages as Narada Muni, Srila Prabhupada, Six Goswamis, our spiritual masters, our elder devotees, etc. This is our real freedom of will. We always have freedom of will, and modern science cannot explain this phenomenon, whether it is a result of collapse of wave function, if they try to explain the phenomenon of consciousness in terms of quantum mechanics, or it collapse, or it's self-collapse, orchestrated self-collapse, and so on. There are many wonderful theories, but they do not answer the core reason of who is the origin of this free will, who causes this wave function to be collapsed. Yes, and also this freedom of will is brilliantly described by Hridayananda Maharaja in his purport to the, I believe, in the third chapter of 11th canto, with the example of the plane, passenger of the plane. If we come to the plane, we cannot step off the plane for some time at least, but we are free in our moving or in our actions inside the plane. Yes, we have freedom of will, and it must be properly used. Narada Muni is very merciful. He was merciful to Dhruva. He is merciful to King Prachinabarhi. Oh, I see so wonderful cows. Krishna. Gita Nagri cows. Darshan. Narada Muni is very merciful, and he gives us instructions which are transmitted then to us by Srila Prabhupada. And as William Shakespeare said, the quality of mercy is not strained; it droppeth like a gentle rain of heaven. All we have to do is just to come under this flow of mercy. Yes, it's not. In fact, it's not difficult. It just requires the little suppression of our ego. And then some miracle can happen. Real miracle can happen. So we have to understand this knowledge of the soul. It's practical knowledge. As Srila Prabhupada said this Krishna consciousness movement is a science. It is a science because science implies some information or hypothesis and then experimental confirmation. And we see in our everyday's life how this philosophy works, how this knowledge is relevant. It is very relevant, and that is why we must take benefit of it. We must take benefit of this wonderful knowledge which is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. We cannot understand God unless we follow the simple principles Dharmam tu sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. I tried to avoid any shlokas. Sarvatma Prabhu once instructed me, I just wanted to try to speak sincerely what I feel at this particular moment. It was some time ago. I just want to add one little story. I remember it in connection with this purport by Srila Prabhupada. I was traveling by plane, and one of the passengers who sat not far from me I saw that he started arguing with the plane staff. And the reason was that he was not given a vegetarian food menu. He was not given, he could not get the vegetarian menu. I found that I started speaking with him and found he was a Muslim. He was a completely pure vegetarian Muslim, and he was very much furious that he was not offered a vegetarian food. and I had with me some stock of prasadam in my bag. So I shared prasadam with him. He was asking who prepared this food. I explained to him that this food is prepared by special people in good state of consciousness, and it's offered then to the Bhagavan. He understood who is Bhagavan. And finally, after he ate some samosas and sweets, he told me, you know, I understood one important thing. He said, I understood, now I understand that your Bhagavan, the Christian God, the Ukrainian Bog, it's the name for God in our language, Ukrainian Bog, our Allah is the same personality. He said, I understood that he's the same personality. And if people will understand it, that this is the same God, this is the same person, there will be no wars, there will be no conflicts. So we have to take benefit of this wonderful knowledge which is given to us such saints as Srila Prabhupada. And really, if at least 1% of people around the world will understand that the wars will be stopped. At least there will be much less wars, which bring so much suffering to the humanity and distracts us from our main goal of life. So the story of Puranjana is really very important and very practical, and Hare Krishna, I don't want to repeat the same thing again and again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patience, for your kind attention. If you have some additions, suggestions, or maybe some questions.
Prabhu, there is, first of all, maybe you can move your screen so we can see the entirety of your head, because we saw just half of your head most of the time.
Excuse me, Saratan Prabhu.
That's no problem. When you said that, and I heard this many times and I read it many times, that if people who eat meat cannot understand the concepts in spiritual life, the very beginning, etc., etc. Yet, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent his disciples to the UK, and they said that there were some people interested, but they will never give up meat. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta didn't say, forget about it then. He said, then serve them meat. He didn't say, let them eat meat. He actually said, serve them meat, indicating that if necessary, one can actually perform this task to serve them meat just for the sake of trying to get the message of Lord Chaitanya through. So can you explain this apparent contradiction?
I have no qualification to explain this contradiction, Sarvatma Prabhu. But I think that what Srila Prabhupada categorically says about it is first of all, for the instruction of us, his immediate followers, who want to be his followers. In some circumstances, special circumstances, preaching is more important, I guess. If we just need to make people interested in spiritual matters, and to assure that they won't be able to live their daily habits, well, I agree with you. The example of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is confirmation to this. I remember that it was in the middle 70s, I read it maybe in Lilamrita. Harikesha Swami was sent to Yugoslavia or to Hungary, and he said that, Prabhupada, I will have to eat meat there. Srila Prabhupada said, then eat meat. Preaching is more important. So that is why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also, when the governor of West Bengal, Anderson, visited Mayapur Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, yes, he was, he personally looked that the governor and his team will be served meat. Yes. Saratma Prabhu, maybe you will try to resolve this contradiction. I believe that Srila Prabhupada first of all says it for us that it's impossible for us because it's impossible for us, his followers, to develop spiritually if we will not follow just such simple regulative principles. But for people in general, in fact, Srila Prabhupada, I think Srila Prabhupada insisted about, he asked again and again his vis-a-vis in communication, when he said about again and again about his meat eating, when he saw that the person is quite stubborn and shows categorical undesire to agree with Srila Prabhupada. Then Srila Prabhupada again and again stressed this point of necessity to leave meat eating. But if a person took a humble position and admitted that yes, there are things I have to follow, but I cannot do it at the moment, then Srila Prabhupada talked in another manner with him or with her. Okay, I'm talking too much. Please help me.
No, you're the featured speaker. You're supposed to talk a lot. One of our participants today, you can see her name, Malati Devi Dasi. This is, I don't want to make you even more nervous than you are, but this is the Malati, one of Prabhupada's first disciples. And she commented that our Srila Prabhupada told one devotee who was going into a hostile environment, prison, that if he had to eat meat to stay alive, then he should do it. So this is not a, again, Krishna consciousness is not all about hard and fast rules. It's about practicality. So for preaching, we can make exceptions. Of course, we cannot convert an exception into a rule. Otherwise, it will be the same history all over the place, that Buddha will have to come, and then Sankara will have to come, and then Lord Chaitanya will have to come again. So this is just a concession, not a rule.
Concession, not a rule. Thank you, Saratma Prabhu. Yes, I think.
Any other questions or comments for Dvija Govinda Prabhu? Please feel free to raise your true or virtual hand. There you go, Venu Madhurya Prabhu. I think you know him. He's your Russian pal.
Hare Krishna. Great to go. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you. Thank you very much for the class. Yeah, I just was thinking about what Saratma Prabhu just said, and I just remember that quite often when Prabhupada had conversations about meat eating, he would always put specifically in a special category cows. So even if he had conversations with somebody who is attached to meat eating, or in general for Westerners, he would say, can't they just eat some other meat than cow? You know, or when he came to England for the last time before departing in Vrindavan, so he came there, he said, they're so nice people. They're so receptive, they're so respectful. You know, at that time, Krishna consciousness was booming in Europe and USA. In England, in India, there were many problems. And he would say, just if they would just give up the cow eating, you know, because cow is not the meat, she's a mother. Another time he was in Australia visiting this Christian movement, monks that were living in a simple village life and practicing intense prayers, described in Shama Sundar's Chasing the Rhino Swami book, very detailed. And again, when he was living, he said, there's only one defect in this community, they're eating cows. So things that sometimes Prabhupada in those conversations wouldn't even mind to say that, you know, if you're attached to eating, eat something else. It's not the cow. he would stress these two. And if my kind of speculative understanding of this discussion, what we just discussed, that if person would stop eating meat, like cow meat first, and chant Hare Krishna and get the knowledge, gradually he would give up in himself, because it's an elevative process. We see here, people visiting and seeing cows, associating with cows. I'm talking just, students or whoever visits. Sometimes they never seen cows, never cuddled a cow. And the effect is that they stop eating cow meat first. And gradually they become vegetarians. So Prajata can do a testimony on this one because she is in contact with many, many of those groups. And this is without even not preaching too much. Just some thoughts that I wanted to share just in this regard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vinod Prabhu.
Anybody else? Malati, would you like to add something to this conversation? Something further? You want to unmute yourself?
Hare Krishna. I'm just enjoying the conversation in that I think it's a really enlivening one because it's based on preaching and spreading Krishna consciousness. And I want to thank Prabhu for his wisdom that he shared with us today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Malati. Well, obviously, it shows that preaching is the essence. This is the message, that we may try to live an idyllic life and so on, but if we don't spread the message, then we are being selfish. So we have to reduce. I actually told a lie once. Well, I didn't know any better. Of course, when one joins Krishna consciousness, the first thing you want to do is to convert everybody else, particularly your family and your friends. Matter of fact, one of the first devotees I met in the temple that I joined, when I was being introduced to them, this devotee said to me, "I know what you're thinking." That was his opening line. I said, "So, and what is it?" He said, "Well, you just discovered a jewel and you want to give it to everybody. So you're thinking, how am I gonna tell about Krishna to everybody that I know?" I said, yeah, exactly right. That's what I'm thinking. And so since you can read my mind, can you tell me what's going to happen? He said, possibly nothing is going to happen. And then I asked, so that means I shouldn't tell them anything? He said, no, it's good. You should tell them, but do not be attached to the result, because possibly nothing will happen. And I did. I wrote a bunch of letters to everybody I knew and told them about the principles of Krishna consciousness and the beauty and the philosophy and so on. And nobody had any interest, except one friend of mine who's curiously, his last name is Rama. That's his last name. And so it wasn't very difficult to convince him to chant his own name. And he started chanting, and he for at least a year or two, he chanted 25 rounds a day. And that was the only connection from a past that actually adopted it. And then I lied to my father, who had migraines for, you know what migraines is?
Yes.
He had migraines for 50 years. Every week he had a migraine, and he had to lock himself in a dark room and be quiet and lie down. And I said to him, if you stop eating cow meat, your migraines will go away. I mean, I was just totally speculating, and I just lie for the sake of preaching, you can say. Though it was a low move. And actually he followed. He stopped eating cow meat, and immediately his migraines went away. So Krishna helped me with that, because there is no medical prescription of that sort. So sometimes we get a little fortunate. Do you wanna, is anybody else who wants to add anything? Please. Okay, there is a hand from Prema Kishori. Please unmute, and if you're, how could I say, prepared to do it, please put the video as well.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, I'm driving to work. Am I audible? Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dvija, Govinda, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a nice class. We just turn on the GPS. I learned a lot, and I had read your introduction that Sarvatma Prabhu had sent. So I was thinking there's going to be a very scholarly devotee, but you sounded like you are scholarly, no doubt, from whatever credentials I saw. But your presentation of such a complex matter was indeed very simple. So I appreciate that. One question I have is, you said that when you read Vanity Karma by Jayadvaita Swami, you like the concept of free will, that free will is how we are able to follow the instructions of the acharyas. And then you said that more or less the events in our life are fixed because this is a field of activity or kshetra. One question which I'm asked in my preaching experience is then if our karma is fixed, then what are we really doing? I mean, I have made up answers and here and there, but I would like to hear from you. Like, how would you address this question? If I may please humbly ask, if my karma is already fixed, then what am I really doing? Like, like in terms of studying or struggling to get this position or this relation or this stay here or go there. People go to astrologer to find out that should I move here or should I live there? So if it is already fixed, then what am I really doing? I don't know if I asked the question properly.
Thank you very much, Mataji Prema Kishori. As understood, how can we understand the concept of the freedom of will if, in fact, everything is predetermined by our karma, all our activities? Yes, all our activities. There is no place for the freedom if all our activities are predetermined by our previous actions. Sarvatma Prabhu, maybe you will help. Did I correct?
Yes, you understood correct.
So yes, I believe that yes, Mataji Prema Kishori. Main events are really predetermined. Yes, and sometimes even if we think that, oh, I have a freedom of will to raise my left hand or to raise my right hand, okay. And many of these, even these things can be predetermined, really. But also what says Jayadvaita Swami in his book, and I believe what says Srila Prabhupada, I'm not ready to give an exact quote, but when our guna in which we are situated is increased, when the more mode of goodness is dominating, the more our real freedom, the freedom of our soul, comes into existence, comes into being. So the lower is the guna in which we are situated, the more we are confined by the shackles of material energy. But some freedom of will begins to manifest when we come into the mode of goodness. Of course, our raising into the mode of goodness can be also predetermined. Yes, but this will lead us to logical paradoxes, like so-called Laplace demon, and so on. No, I believe that yes, there is some freedom of will, little freedom of will, which says Srila Prabhupada, which is explained in this purport in Bhagavatam by Haridananda Goswami, which I mentioned. In fact, everything is predetermined except our development of our spiritual consciousness. Everything else is in fact predetermined, but how will we develop our spiritual understanding? No, it's not. This is up to us. This is where our freedom of will can be manifested. I can give an example that when we say, what does it mean that predetermined? Does it mean that there could be no free choice, no variety? No, several different objects can have the same shadow. As maybe for mathematician, this example is how to say. I like this example. Several different objects can have the same shadow. So the same material history can be for different persons. But one person lived his life, his or her life, just under the laws of material nature, doesn't understand his spiritual identity. But another person with the same shadow, his shadow or her shadow looks almost in the same way. But he or she understood spiritual identity, yes, and developed spiritual consciousness. But from a material point of view, they lived the same life both, but there is huge gulf of difference between them. So we live in, as often said, in multidimensional space. The projection to three dimensions, which we are accustomed with, may be the same, but the development of other dimensions, yes, like Srila Prabhupada said, there is a spiritual dimension which is transcendental to the three dimensions we live in. This dimension is not constrained by the laws of material nature. Hare Krishna. This is what I tried to express. It could be wrong. You can correct me, of course.
No, thank you, Prabhu. It makes a lot of sense. And points from your description and a lot of examples. But I don't want to, as you rightly said, logical paradoxes. But if I may be allowed, Saratna Prabhu, am I allowed to put one doubt that I have in my mind? Or is there anyone else waiting? I can. Thank you. So there is one. So in ISKCON we have we're developing something called Bhaktivedanta Medical Association. So in that there is one devotee I know. He's bringing forth this concept of free will in the matter of describing. He's a vascular surgeon. So in the matter of describing how the disease develops. So I am not understanding this, but this is what he proposes. He said most of the people who get ill and they come to a doctor, they say, oh, this is because of my genes. You know, I have developed this heart disease because my father had it, my grandfather had it, or I have diabetes, or I have depression because it runs in. If you take 4 aspects, if you divide your life in 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 in the concept of developing a disease, then 1/4 is completely fixed. You know, like for example, if somebody is born with an eye defect, you can't change it. It's fixed. And the other 4th is, okay, you're going to grow only this much tall. Your height is gonna be only this much. Your bones are gonna be only this strong or whatever. But 50% of it is something which is environmental. So there you go, you execute the concept of free will there, that what kind of food you eat, what kind of thoughts you process, what kind of lifestyle you lead, what's your sleep pattern. And then he brings forth this argument of 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita. I think it's verse 14 where Krishna says one who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping and recreation can mitigate all material sufferings. So he said here it is an example of a free will, expression of a free will of the soul. That sounds very complex to me, but your example is an explanation where I understand more from what you're saying. But I don't know if I just wanted to express. I mean, if there's anything that you can add in it to simplify, or do you accept or reject, or then that will be nice. Sorry if I have deviated the class, and I apologize.
When Krishna says you mentioned for sixth chapter that by regulative, the one can overcome all material miseries. Yes, by regulative eating, sleep, yukta hara viharasya, yukta chishtasya swapnasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, bhavati dukhaha, can overcome all material miseries. Yes. Yes, material miseries will, maybe if I correctly understood the idea of your question, Mataji Pramakishwari, because I'm not so good in English, but yes, the sufferings will come to us, and the cures also will come to us. Yes. The question is, our freedom of will is in the fact that how will we react to this? Yes, our illnesses, our diseases are programmed in some sense in our subtle body just when we came into the current gross body. Yes, its destiny is almost predefined, maybe almost we say, maybe there is some corridor, but mostly it's I believe it's mostly predefined. But our main freedom of will is how will we react to this? How will we react to these auspicious or inauspicious circumstances in which we as a soul, as a Puranjana, are situated currently? The good things and bad things will come. Our freedom of will is how will we react to this. And Krishna, in fact, is so merciful that when we cooperate with him, when we believe that everything comes from him by his mercy to us, Krishna also can create miracles, because he's the supreme Swatantra. He is the supreme independent. In fact, he can create miracles, of course. But as I understand, Krishna does not want to interfere much into the laws of material nature, so that there will be not many cheap followers of religion. This is just my limited understanding. Maybe if I correctly understood the intention of your question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji Pramakishwari. Hare Krishna. Thank you for a very nice question.
Thank you for your answer, Prabhu. I appreciate. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, it's almost an hour. I feel ashamed to attract your attention for so much time. Although for me, it's a great experience. I'm very grateful for you to have your association, to hear your voices, to see your faces.
We thank you, Prabhu, for taking care of us and delivering a nice Srimad Bhagavatam talk and some related issues. And now, unless anybody else has anything relevant or related to say or ask, I will encourage all the participants to unmute themselves and thank you in person. And my name and the name of the devotees of Gita Nagari, thank you, Prabhu, for taking care of us.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Krishna Mataji Dvija, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji Malaki.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. So thank you so much. Please come back again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Pubrit Prabhu, Ajamil Prabhu, Mataji Radhika, Mataji Pramakishwari, Ben Madhuri Prabhu, to all of you, my sincere obeisances. Thank you, Sarvatam Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji Malati. It's a great honor to hear you. Thank you, Sarvatam Prabhu, Mataji Dvija, for nice opportunity to meet with you this Sunday.
You're welcome. Thank you. And to all the participants, we're going to have the former Sutapa Das on the 29th, who's now Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Swami. He's going to speak on the 29th of July. Thank you to all. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful, conscious day.